All right, guys, and welcome to a casted game. It's a pleasure having you all here with us as we analyze a game we played earlier this week as we face off against a Gold 2 and 3 player, led, of course, by a Diamond 2 in Team Ranked. My name is StuG, and I am here fighting under the color teal as the Roost. I'm joined here by my fellow gamers. I got Box Turtleman here in the color purple, playing as the English. And of course, I also have G Crash fighting under the red banner, playing as the Ottomans. Guys, again, it is a genuine pleasure to have you here with us during this game. We encourage you to sit back, grab a snack or two, enjoy some gold to diamond gameplay. Well, guys, we are on Hideout, and we are facing off against, of course, this is ranked trios. We're facing off against Fentasad, who is playing as the Abbasid dynasty down on the west or southwestern corner of the map. We also have, I'm going to butcher this name, Shintanka or Shitanaka, playing as the Japanese under the color pink. And last but not least, we have Frauda, our only mirror civ in this game. Of course, Box is also playing the English, and he is currently under the color green.
Yep. This is a typical match. Usually there's at least another English civ. But oddly enough, I am fighting my own mirror, so things will get interesting.
Yeah, the way this game worked out, it actually was worked in our favor. Now, for those of you who don't know, this yellow player right here, Fantasad, he is actually ranked Diamond 2, I believe. I believe it's in ranked. G if you can remember correctly, was it in ranked or was he a Diamond 2 in solo?
He was Diamond 2 solo playing. He was definitely carrying the team by far this match, as we'll see in the later back half of the game. He was really starting to pick up the momentum and try to fight us off. But he was the best out of all three of them as a Diamond 2 in solo ranked.
Yeah, I'd have to agree with that. Yellow certainly was carrying this match, and of course we'll get into this. But how about opening moves? Typically, relatively standard start with a 2 houses and a hunting cabin out to start gathering early gold, and of course to get my second scout out. My first scout is currently hunting down all the deer packs on the southern half of the map. Of course, this map is where most of the deer packs are grouped in groups of 3, so there is very few large deer packs. I think you'll find, I'm actually not sure. Yeah, I don't think there's any large deer packs on here. But yeah, pretty standard opening for the Roos. How about you, Box? What's up with you here?
So my main goal is to just prevent the English from crossing over. I'm just going to act like a buffer using my Castle Age. Castle Age. What building is it again? White Tower. I'm going to use White Tower, Castle Age building to defend. And
Good
there I
pick
just
up.
sniped Green Scout, so I collect all the sheep, which is a big hit for him because sheep are very important. And this map does not have a lot of sheep.
Yes, that was an excellent pick, and certainly turned the food supply in your favor, at least in the early game. Coming down, yeah, coming down to Fentasad, he is the first to begin aging up with the military wing, which Box did call in the early part of the game, which I wasn't honestly expecting Fentasad to open with that. I've expected an early Cashel rush, honestly, or at least a 2 TC move on his part, but I wasn't necessarily expecting that. Now G makes the excellent call of calling for my Kremlin to be put on the closest large gold mine off to the west or the southwestern portion of the Abbasid's base, a move that I was relatively a little squeamish about doing because it was considering far, but I set 4 villages up and said a prayer and crossed my fingers, and yeah, we're getting it built down now. G what made you want to do that?
So my thought process was, as we were scouting the map, I saw this gold mine, and I saw that it would be one of the gold mines that they would be moving off to once they have absorbed all of their gold right next to their base. So I decided to make the executive decision to throw down StuG's Kremlin there. That way we could have a forward base so that we were able to maintain constant pressure on that Diamond 2. Our thought process was if we eliminate the Diamond 2, the other two would be forced to resign. And as an Ottomans, if anyone out there is aware of the nerfs to the Ottoman and their playstyle, you must realize that their earlier game is very, very slow. And so I decided to opt for a uh, support role in which I did a very standard archer horseman rush, Sipahi rush. That way I could support StuG up by his Kremlin once it goes down. As you can see, Yellow does get his units out first, and these will actually cause a little bit of grief for us as they march onto StuG, trying to harass and pick off a few vills. Luckily, we call it out in time, and no major damage was done to StuG's settlement. Yellow will then move up to mine and harass some of my vills. I try to get an archery range up to combat them, but as you can see when they're moving up, we're calling callouts that they got units on the board.
And
North. Alright, so up in the north, I have placed down my console hall, starting to make some archers, and I've placed down a defensive tower. Now this is to ward off Green, who's about to attack me with some archers that I scouted out earlier. And luckily, this seems to work out pretty well, as the second he sees my tower, he seems to bugger off.
moving down into the south, I wouldn't necessarily call the Abbasids' raid on me no major damage. In fact, they actually pushed me off the steer pack right here, as I hadn't had any particular defensive buildings up, so it did make me transfer into farms a lot earlier than I expected, setting me back a little bit. But however, meanwhile, I have put up a stable and I'm training 2 knights along with the Kremlin, and as of right now, Fantasad does actually not see my Kremlin. Obviously, that's my line of sight, but he has yet to spot it. Fantasad also pushing up, as G-Dash mentioned, onto G-Dash's position. However, Fantasad unfortunately just doesn't have the men to hold a position or even make a noticeable impact.
He does delay me by pushing me off my food and my gold, and he'll start to linger around as I try to send my vills back. Obviously, I got my spearmen out from my 1 military academy, but right now my vills are idling, and this is not helping me in the slightest. I got a Sipahi up, and right now I'm not confident taking him, as he does have 2 spears that he's keeping close to his archers, so I started to kite in and out, trying to find a angle to push. But right now my second military academy is going up, and as you can see, I did not start these in the early game. I went straight for food and gold, as one does, a standard 8-4, 8 on food, 4 on gold, and then the rest of my vills on wood to get my econ up, and then I put 2 on stone. That way I was able to get my vills up, or my academies up, and start producing Sipahis.
Moving back to Box. Box, what are we doing here? Heavy focus on econ by the looks of it.
Yes, I'm looking to econ boom here, get a second TC up, and then get my econ set in stone, so I can then go straight to castle and push right into green. Since my defenses are holding off.
Speaking of 2TC, Abbasid Dynasty has actually put 2TC up, a relatively fast 2TC, but it's to be expected by a Diamond 2 player. However, he still has not spotted this Kremlin, nor has he spotted my mining camp or stable. In fact, he probably at this point believes that my knights are coming from my base and just circling around the map. Now, he does lose a bunch of vills here. He does bring him out into combat mode and then brings his pike up. I do decide to pull back at the last minute, causing me to lose only my scout but retaining my 3 knights. A good trade-off. I believe I got 4 villagers for the loss of 1 scout. Meanwhile, up in the north, Pink, seeing my knights, tends to put his spearmen up on the gold mine, and I believe that's because he thought that my knights were going to come raid him, and he was protecting his investment. A wiser use of resources would very likely have been an outpost to cover his gold while he sent his pikes down to help the Abbasid Dynasty, considering that the Abbasid Dynasty is on the front lines. It's also very important to note that G-Dash and I had discussed prior to the match start, after looking at the Abbasid's player's stat car, we would have to take him out of the game relatively quickly. So a lot of our pressure is, of course, on the Abbasid Dynasty. Now, I have 4 knights up. excuse me, 5 knights up. And my primary goal, 6, now I have a 6th knight, excuse me. But my primary goal with these knights is just to keep the Abbasid dynasty locked up in his base. I'm not really interested in attacking his settlement directly in the sense where I'm trying to do some actual damage. I'm more just having him kite his men in and out. And as you can see, we got G dash down here. Finally starting to send out Sipahis and pikes, I believe, and some bowmen. Is that right?
Yep, I've noticed that I received some free units from my academies, mainly pikes, and then I switch over to Sipahis. That way I can have a fast raid and flank, be able to pick off a couple vills and maintain pressure. I do end up sending a vill up to the Kremlin so I can start my own base. That way my units aren't wasting time transferring from my base, as well as waiting for them to get all the way up to assist StuG.
Yeah, meanwhile, we've got Box up here building a decent massive longbowman. Now, as discussed prior, we had actually decided Box would go heavy on the econ, as English is a powerhouse from ages 3 and 4. Isn't that right, Box?
Yes, and my strategy here is basically to just out-econ my other opponent. I saw he tried to go for an early game, so I figured he'd probably hang back, build a bunch of early game units, and then attack me with a massive army. I figured I'd take a defensive position, boost my econ, make it very hard to disrupt, and whenever I go to Castle Age, I'm going to have Castle Age units, my opponent's still going to be in Feudal Age, and I'm just going to walk straight through.
Meanwhile, moving down to the south.
This is the most costly battle. As you can see, my Sipahis were not fully engaged to assist StuG, and he does end up losing a couple knights there. I make the call to pull back as I wait for more reinforcements to come up. As you can see, they're starting to pile in now, and we have a good-sized base on its way in the making.
Yeah, and just to note, Fentasad has not found the Kremlin yet. He is still unaware, and actually this is where he did try to put up his walls, assuming that it was just coming from my base up in the northern section, or I shouldn't say northern, but more north of the south base. Pinkets at this point, he actually brings down his spearmen, which in my opinion was actually really late, considering excuse me, I keep butchering his name. Fentasad kept having to expend resources into military because he wasn't getting any sort of aid for Pink. So Pink's arrival was delayed, and in fact too late, considering the size of military that me and G-Dash have built up. Now, speaking of aging up, Shintaka has actually gotten to age 3. However, he goes up with the Temple of Equality. An interesting choice, considering most people will go with the floating gate, so you can get the Shinto priests and then put their relics in either your econ or military buildings. Either way, in my opinion, a waste of a age up. It's up here. I do try to bait Teal's oh, there it is. There it is. Teal's pikes I was hoping would come up and guard his gold mine. He doesn't really make a move because G-Dash is harassing in the south.
And this is where I decided to make a pull, a feigning move to pull out to make them think that they pushed us out of their region. I wanted to maintain the secrecy of the Kremlin and our base up here as long as possible. That way they wouldn't focus and attack all at once. And so I do end up sending my Sipahis and archers to find a bit of the wall where I could start poking to get them drawn away from their base. That way StuG could bring his knights back and keep the pressure on yellow.
And Box, what do we got going up here?
Alright, so what we got going on here, I got a great econ going. I'm hitting the 3rd age here. I'm going to place this tower right in about the midpoint. As you can see, my opponent is preparing to attack me as well. But my numbers and his numbers are kind of equal, kind of same there. You know, he's still in feudal, but the second I hit in castle, I'm going to be able to pump out a ton of castle age units. And he'll still be stuck in the feudal age.
Now, this is where we thought that Yellow has scouted out the Kremlin. It looked like it was close enough with all their units, but this is where I feign away again, and they still have not revealed our position.
As you can see, me and G-Dash have succeeded in our mission against this Diamond player. The Diamond player has very little room to move out of his base. He's constantly being harassed by both me and G-Dash, and again, unbeknownst to him, I have a base right outside his field of vision. In fact, my Kremlin I believe, can actually see what's going on. Yes, I have a line of sight. The Kremlin has a ridiculous amount of line of sight when it comes to its defenses. So it's an excellent building here, and it does actually see these villas. So it does. Yeah. So yeah, it's right here. My knights catch the villas, and I think at this point this really surprised Teal, or excuse me, not Teal. I'm Teal. Surprised Yellow because he did not expect a base up in the north. He had assumed he had walled off successfully, and I think was getting a little comfortable. But now he realizes he's in serious trouble. Meanwhile, up north, Box, what do we got?
Alright, so up here in the north, we have Green made his push. He realizes, oh crap, there's a massive keep there. I can't do anything. I'm out age. And now I'm building up with my next stage units. And I'm going to walk straight through his town.
Yeah, something we complimented on this game after we had played it is the unfortunate is passivity a word? The passiveness, I should say. Yeah, I'm making up words here. The passiveness of both Pink and Green was detrimental to their Diamond player because, as you'll see here, he did try to build rams. However, he does get attacked by both me and Dash. And unfortunately, when Pink's spears arrive, our knights and the Sipahi have done most of the damage to the Abbasid player. And honestly, we should have pulled out here. I get a little ambitious and bring up my knights and engage his pikemen. Bad move on my part. I was getting a little overzealous, but I did want to take on Yellow and kneecap him as best he could. But I make the decision to pull away. G-Dash does the same, and Pink decides not to follow into the line with the Kremlin site. Meanwhile, Green up here, it looks like he's amassing a big army, yet Box is going to answer him kind, along with knights, men-at-arms, crossbowmen, and bowmen.
Yep. Strong econ to back it up. Nothing stopping me.
Yeah, really went into the farms there, didn't you, Box?
Yeah. I have a lot of stuff. I have 30 men on food, I have 21 on wood, and I have 19 on gold. Very strong econ, very hard to destroy, especially in Castle Age.
If you take a look at the scores, you can obviously how Box is pulling away in terms of econ and strength, whereas Yellow is severely depleted of all of his resources, just chucking men into pikes and bow. And he'll try to make a counterattack to eliminate our base. You can see he's building some rams up there in accordance with Pink's spears, but Pink makes a decision to pull back for some reason.
Yeah, and this is where I did call for that attack, and honestly, I saw Pink pulled away, which was honestly really critical because the opposite player loses most of his bowmen, and one ram, and I pull away before any major damage or harm can come to my knights. I believe I lost one knight there, but that was a trade. Abbasid can't afford it. I can. Back up north.
I begin my push against Green. I force him into his town, into his wall, which I just now realize is there, and I will take advantage of his wall and use my archers to fight him.
Yeah, small skirmish going up on the north. Both English players are being relatively passive and more econ focused in this match. Fox successfully manages to take, or more specifically, push the other English players' men back into their wall. Meanwhile, right here, this is really where the end of the game happens. My knights breach Abbasid's wall, and it's at this point where he reacts just a little too late. He has very little military to back it up. And here comes G-Dash coming up on the south side of his base, attacking both his villas and Pink's knights. With men-at-arms now added into the fray, the pikes really have nowhere else to go. And with my knights finishing up Abbasid's forces up north, he does surrender, which eventually prompts the rest of them to surrender as well. Pink, of course, being passive, losing most of his pikes and not getting any major military up. And Green holds out for a little while longer until he realizes that a military force of Boxes here is coming up and about to ride up onto his doorstep. And that was pretty much it for this game. I mean, overall, we think, what do you all think about that game?
Playing pretty good. I think Green got a little too passive and too content hiding inside his own base, and he misread my actions. He thought I was going to do the same. But unbeknownst to him, I was going with a heavy econ. I was going to out-econ him and then outproduce him in military.
G-Dash?
Yeah, so I think the added pressure from both of our civs, obviously with knights and Sipahi archers, was a very lethal combo that ended up being very detrimental to yellow. He did try to hold off as best he could with pikes and archers, but unfortunately numbers and resources were not on his side as StuG kept poking and prodding and getting Vills off gold, away from the wood, and all just bottled up into his base in general. Would have loved to see a little more action from the other civs. It kind of felt like a walk in the park when we were just steamrolling yellow down in the south. We were just kind of confused the entire game, wondering why they weren't transferring to better units, such as samurai, mounted samurai, especially when pink was the first to age up. But if you don't know, the Ottoman has a very good mid to late game as their Janissaries and Great Bombards come out. So either way, we were on top of it and would have probably ended up rolling through their base sooner or later.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and especially with the Japanese player seemingly being relatively inexperienced in terms of unit combination. The Japanese are one of the most strongest civs, in my opinion, in H3, considering that they can get their mounted samurai. In fact, when I played Japan, the mounted samurai is the immediate go-to. That's why I try to age up as fast as I could. But he really just built pikemen, which is good to an extent against my knights. However, my knights are a lot faster, of course, and paired up with Ottoman bowmen and, of course, men-at-arms, there's simply no contest there. And I think what really sold us the game here is us focusing on the opposite player, who we both knew that he was a diamond 2. And it was extremely important to cut the head off the snake, so to speak, and the body will die afterwards. So we gambled correctly on that. We got lucky in terms of a passive English player and a passive Japanese player. A further fight with Box and his forces might have been interesting. However, I believe the English player just realized it'd be pointless as their main, their leader, I would say, quit first. Any closing thoughts?
No, it was a really great game overall. We did get kind of lucky with our placement, though, with you two up towards the front and me versus the passive English player.
No, I agree. Well, guys, I really hope you enjoyed this relatively short video of our casted ranked trios matches. We hope to make this a series, so stick around, see if we put out another one relatively soon. Guys, it's been fun. My name is StuG. My co-partners here have been G-Dash and Box Tournament, and we are Triarchy Gaming. We will see you all in the next one.